Hello, everybody. Happy, Wednesday evening. Cool.
Yay, Kenneth.
Yes. Yay. That's awesome. Kenneth got a shipment. So, welcome to the button list with Allison and Heather. There's Heather.
Hello.
We're from Beating Dreams in Dallas, Texas, and we are here to talk to you this evening about crazy, wacky, weird, and wild gemstone tales. So tonight we have for you some of the wild and wacky craziness behind the Black Princess Ruby. So the Black Princess Ruby is a very famous ruby that actually currently resides in the crown jewels of the British Empire, except for Heather. Why is the Black Princess Ruby called the Great Imposter?
Well, Allison, that ruby is actually not even kind of a ruby. It is a spinel.
It is, in fact, a spinel, which is a completely different mineral, and Heather's gonna drill down on that in a second. So the Black Princess Ruby is called the Great Imposter because it's not actually a ruby. It's not even related to a ruby. It never met a ruby, never took a ruby out on a date. All of the other rubies would laugh at it and shun it and make it go sit in the back of the movie theater.
You can't make babies between rubies and spinels.
No. So it is a spinel.
It's not like a mule.
It was mined in Badakhshan, which is present-day Tajikistan, around the 14th century. And then it was plundered, and yes, there was plunder, there was murder, there was sacking of corpses, and all kinds of exciting things. But let's go ahead and start with...
Speaking of Lord of the Rings.
Right? Let's go ahead and start with what exactly is a spinel versus a ruby, Heather.
So, spinels and rubies are absolutely related because they are both aluminum oxides. A ruby is technically a corundum if you're not familiar. So we've talked about this on the Beating Dreams stream before. Rubies and sapphires are both the mineral corundum, which is an aluminum oxide and comes in a whole bunch of different colors. Spinel is a magnesium aluminum oxide, and it is very difficult, to be fair to the people who called it a ruby. It is very difficult to tell the difference between them if you do not have magnification greater than the human eye can see. And fun fact, before 1783, all red gems were referred to as rubies because at that point they could not tell the difference. There was no way to tell the difference. Pure spinel is colorless, but its crystalline structure, as corundum's crystalline structure also does, it lends itself well to trace amounts of other minerals like chromium, iron, or other things, other elements. They can sneak into the crystalline structure of the spinel and allow for a very sneaky.
See, I knew "Don't Be Suspicious" was going to happen this evening again.
So,
don't
spinel,
be suspicious.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Anyway, they can sneak in and make both spinel and corundum a beautiful and stunning array of different colors. And a lot of you will be most familiar with spinel as black, but that doesn't have to be the only color spinel is. It comes in a wide variety of rainbow colors. So black is only one of them, and red is the one that we're really focusing on tonight because it's not a ruby. So, red stones from the Badakhshan area.
That's
Tajikistan.
my handwriting, not Heather's pronunciation.
They were all referred to as balas rubies for a long time because, again, at this point, no one was able to differentiate rubies from spinel. They are different hardnesses, but the Mohs hardness scale was not so much a thing at that point. And honestly, even with the Mohs scale, when you get to a certain level of hardness, it's very difficult to tell between them. If they're very similar levels, it's tough.
Right, because a lot of the Mohs hardness tests are like, below this level will, or above this level will scratch glass. Hi, Silver!
Hello!
And then things of the same hardness will scratch each other, and things of a higher hardness level will scratch things of a lower hardness level, but it's difficult when you get to things that are really close unless you have actual modern scientific equipment.
Yes.
It's hard to
Yes.
tell.
So, post 1783, when they had microscopes available to them, ta-da!
I was wondering who added those hashtags. Thank you, Corvus.
Thank you, Corvus.
That makes sense now.
Once we got past that and were able to see inside the stones, we were able to see that they are, in fact, quite different crystalline structure and all that good stuff. But before then, it was really hard to tell. So anyway, we've got the spinel. This gorgeous spinel. It's in the hands of who?
Big Ars nodule of spinel, and it is in, and I believe it's actually been cut at this point into a cabochon. It is, and now
smashed with hammers today too, actually.
Yes. So now we're in about the 1360s, and the spinel is in the possession of Sultan Muhammad VI of Granada. And Sultan Muhammad and King Pedro, also known as Don Pedro the Cruel of Castile, are having a bit of a tiff about possibly, lands and money and all of the things.
And the cruelty of
Don
Pedro
yeah,
the
well, no,
Cruel.
we're going to get to the cruelty of Don Pedro the Cruel in just a hot minute here. But so at that point, the stone resided with the Sultan's treasures in his palace, the Alhambra, which is a name that is familiar to a lot of people historically. In 1363, unfortunately for Muhammad, womp womp, he was toppled from his throne. Poor guy. So then, what do we think Muhammad does at this point? Does he go and does he hole up in the Alhambra and refuse to leave until people give him back his throne? Does he flee to some foreign country to seek refuge and live in glorious and decadent exile? Does he, lead an army of the people with pikes and torches to claim his throne back by force? What do you think, Heather?
Well, that last one brings a totally different song to mind.
So, do we have A, B, C, or D, none of the above? What is your choice for the answer?
I don't think that he makes very good choices.
He does not.
He makes very poor choices.
Yeah, because what he does is he flees the Alhambra with as many possessions as he can carry on his person.
And where does he go, Allison? To his good friend?
Well, after he grabs the ruby and all of the things, he goes to
spinel.
the spinel. He goes to his good friend King Pedro the Cruel to ask him for help in returning him to his throne. Because going to somebody whose name nomiker is the Cruel moniker. That's what I meant. It's guaranteed to have good results, right? Like, there's no way that can go wrong.
No, what could possibly go wrong?
None. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? Well, does anybody want to take a guess as to what went wrong?
He does sound like a really nice man. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds
right
like
there.
Sounds like a peach. Yeah. Don Pedro, the really nice, cruel dude.
I think it started to go wrong with that first choice.
I think that Corvus is onto something because
Corvus has cracked our code.
Corvus has cracked our code. So yes, King Pedro, Don Pedro the Cruel, did in fact murder Sultan Muhammad, though I guess he was technically no longer Sultan at that point.
He was just Muhammad.
He was just Muhammad?
Not even the Cruel.
No. He didn't have any bad nicknames as far as I know. Though we're going to get to Edward, who also has a snazzy nickname in just a minute. But yes, so Pedro killed Muhammad and then searched his corpse for the spinel and took it for himself.
Yay.
Yay. Hi, baby! We're talking about ancient rubies and dead people.
Or spinels. But definitely dead
Air
people.
quotes rubies.
Yeah.
And definitely dead people and imperial crowns and craziness. Because all of these insane old stones have like these insane stories that go with them. Because, you know, no one's ever like, oh, yeah, I shall transfer this gem to you legally and through all possible laws and for an appropriate sum of money. Oh no, it's all like murder, 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 steal, 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 lie, 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 plunder, plunder, plunder.
I mean, no one has ever given the nickname the Cruel, ironically. Someone named Tiny is always tall, but someone named the Cruel, not a nice guy.
Yeah. And yes,
yeah,
so
they have to think it's a ruby. There's no way.
Yeah, there's no way at this. So the question was asked.
We're still in the 14th century.
Yeah, we're still in the 14th century. So do they still think that it's a ruby? The answer is yes, because they really didn't. The scientific methodology to distinguish ruby from spinel didn't actually come along until almost the end of the 18th century. So yeah,
because we had to have magnification sufficient to see the actual crystalline structure of the gems in question.
So yes, at this point, everyone still thinks it's a ruby.
Yes.
So then what happens?
Well, it's called the Black Prince's Ruby because Pedro, who is
remember,
not
murderer,
not a nice man,
the Cruel.
He's got a half brother, Enrique, who wanted the Castilian throne. Enrique, if you ask my mother. I love her. So his half brother is very interested in the throne and feels like he has a solid claim to it. But Pedro is like, no. So who can I get to help me out with this? It can't be Muhammad because, I mean...
It done killed him. He did.
He did. I had a bad day. I killed Muhammad. I've got this red stone, at least on my side. So he enlists Edward of Woodstock, whose nickname is the Black Prince.
So the Black Prince and the Cruel are now palling around together.
Yeah.
Because that's a good thing for the world.
Exactly. So, do you think this would go well for Pedro? Is Pedro making good choices now?
I think Pedro thought he was making good choices.
Maybe.
But I also think that Pedro had some karma coming his way.
He did a bit.
Because of the murdering.
Yeah, so, spoiler alert, Don Pedro the Cruel also meets an untimely end at the hands of the Black Prince.
What? No.
I know.
Enrique.
Oh, his brother.
Sorry, too many E's.
Too many E's, yes. Sorry. So,
anyway,
Pedro's half-brother, Enrique.
Yeah.
Murders him and takes the throne that Pedro thought maybe he wanted all along. And the lore says that Edward extracted the ruby from Pedro's grasp as payment for troops and support before Pedro's untimely death.
Because, spoiler alert, Pedro was freaking broke. Not baroque. Just broke.
Broke. Because this is way too early to be baroque.
He was broke and then he was dead.
DED.
And who was dead next, Heather?
Well, Edward the Black Prince, Edward Woodstock, died in 1376. He was the son of Edward III. Edward III survived Edward the Black Prince and did not die till 1377.
Woohoo! Whole year.
But his Edward the Black Prince's son then became the heir to the throne. So when Edward III died, the Black Prince's son, Richard II, ascended to the throne. Now, Enrique has the throne in Castile. Edward is in England. So these are two different thrones. It's definitely Game of Thrones, but it's lots of thrones, which is, yeah, it's like a shell Game of Thrones, actually. Richard II was deposed in 1399, so he almost made it to 1400, but not.
Not quite.
No. The ruby was presumably transferred to the new king, who was Henry IV, who some of you may have heard of.
Thank you, Shakespeare.
Thank you, Shakespeare. So, Henry's son, Henri V. Enrique has the throne. Henry IV has the throne.
Funny, because you've got Enrique and Henry.
Yes, exactly, which are both Henry names. So Henry IV is the king, and Henry's son, Henry V, who, no king actually has his regnant name until he ascends the throne. So Henry is just Hank. Like they actually called him Hank, or Harry. So Henry V.
Harry's the one that I knew about.
Yeah. But either one, I mean, there were so many nicknames for Henry, and none of them were Enrique, because that is not a nickname. That's just Harry.
That's
Harry
just,
Hank.
That's just Henry in Spanish.
So, you may have heard of the Battle of Agincourt.
I heard there was a great speech.
Yeah, right?
It was on it was on a particular holiday.
Yeah. The Band of Brothers. So if you ever heard of the movie Band of Brothers, Henry V was the one who made the speech at Agincourt to stir up all of his soldiers. Yes. And according to Shakespeare, the speech went, "We few, we mighty, we proud few, we band of brothers."
I think so.
Yeah.
I can
and yes,
Google it.
Yes, the Black Prince, not actually a descendant of the Black Prince, because Richard II was the descendant of the Black Prince. This is a new line. Richard II was deposed. So this is back when no one was, giving up thrones because they died. They were giving up thrones because they were killed. Or kicked off of it for other, like, they had a choice. You can die with the throne, or you can live without the throne. And a lot of them made the choice to live without the throne, but not all of them. So the Battle of Agincourt, Henry V, and yes, same throne. So Henry V, supposedly, according to the lore, wore the spinel / ruby at this battle, where he was, according to history, struck in the head with a battle axe, which I guess will happen if you wear a giant red target on yourself. I don't know where he wore it, but somewhere.
It was supposedly on his helmet.
Got it. So on his helmet, and he was struck in the head with a battle axe, but he survived, as did the spinel ruby spinel, the Black Prince's non-ruby ruby.
So it was actually We Few, We Happy Few.
We Happy Few, that's the one.
We Band of Brothers.
Yes. I knew proud was not right, but I couldn't
I thought it was happy, but then I had second and third and fourth thoughts about that.
Look, most of my familiarity now with Henry V, the play, is the French scenes. So But
yeah, okay, so that's the O for a Muse at Fire speech.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Or that's the beginning of Henry V?
Anyway.
Henry V. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Shakespeare.
Yes.
So yes, Henry V is hard to kill.
But he was a real person. I mean, he was not made up by Shakespeare.
He was not made up by Shakespeare. He was possibly glorified and embellished by Shakespeare.
Possibly.
But he did actually... Why is my... Okay, apparently my camera's like, soft focus.
But
You
that's
need
okay.
soft
It's
focus
podcast,
now.
so.
Yes. Okay, so... interesting fact, 70 years later, supposedly the ruby / spinel, I think we're still in the period of time where everyone thinks it's a ruby.
Now we're in the 15th century.
Yeah, so we still haven't reached the 18th. The ruby was supposedly worn by Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth.
The one who was found in a parking lot.
Yes. But as the article that I was reading said, less successfully.
Yeah.
So just in this fast forward to 70 years now, we're in the War of the Roses. So you've got the Richard III, who is the last York, and you've got Henry VII, who is Henry Tudor, who is in charge of the opposition and defeats Richard III, the last York. Richard was, as it was eloquently put by Carol, our resident British history buff, he was slewed.
He was slewed.
He was slewed.
Sloon.
He was sloon, and Henry VII became King of England, and Henry VII and his son Henry VIII basically dedicated themselves to killing all of the Yorks forever.
And if you follow your Shakespeare and your history, then you know that Richard III actually made it a lot easier for them to get some of the people like the brothers.
Now is the winter of our discontent.
Yes.
May glorious summer by the son of York.
Yeah.
That's all I know of that
So
speech.
nobody in that time period was happy. Nobody
Everyone was
okay.
discontent.
Everybody, it was the winter.
Seriously, it was the winter of
the
the discontent. Did they not have therapists?
No, they had very few therapists. They had thrones that they did not want to give up.
But wouldn't they have been happier if they'd had therapists?
They would have been happier if they'd had therapists, but that was a long time coming, much like microscopes to tell whether something was a ruby or a spinel.
Interesting.
Anyway, go find therapy, y'all. It's awesome.
Seriously, it's true.
They did also have sex.
A lot of
Yeah,
sex. It's true.
Yes.
They had a lot more sex than people think they did.
Yeah.
And really, you only got trouble if you got caught.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so I believe it was Oliver Cromwell who had the crown jewels dismantled and dispersed. But then you're gonna have to read this because you can make fun of me for how I wrote it.
Okay.
Because I was writing really fast, y'all.
So yes, Oliver Cromwell had the crown jewels dismantled and dispersed. And then when Charles II was restored, however, the notes for this literally say was restored. There's an arrow pointing to it. It says LOL. Because it's in handwriting, y'all. It is not typed.
I did not type this.
No,
Restored. I wrote it, and I was like, I could fix that, and I'm like, nope, it's funnier if I don't.
It's better.
so yes, Charles II was in fact restored.
Yes.
To the throne in 1660, and the Black Princess Ruby returned to the royal treasury, where at this point we don't have a whole lot of it. Apparently, just kind of sat.
Yeah.
In there and just kind of did its thing. Restored it through barbishing. I mean,
there was a lot of barbishing happening during that time period because there were fact checking was not strong.
No, there was no fact.
So yeah, for a while it just sat around, and I assume at some point didn't Queen Victoria realize it was not a ruby? So by then they knew.
Because that was 1838.
Yeah.
So by then they knew that it wasn't a ruby. And still, she was like, hey, there's this big red rock that's really pretty.
And she's not wrong. This thing is gorgeous. Red spinel is amazing.
Yeah, and the thing is big. Like, we never actually talked about how big it is.
Like a bird's egg.
Like a, yeah.
Not like a hummingbird's egg. More like a small quail egg. Bigger than a quail egg.
Bigger than a quail egg. Hold on.
Welcome. No such thing as too late, and lurking is awesome.
Hey! Yay. Yeah, so it's 170 carats, which is 34 grams. That's a big rock. Yeah.
A small chicken egg. Yeah.
Yeah. Small chicken egg.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually crack nearly as easily as an egg.
No, don't try and crack it. The British monarchy will be mad at you.
They will, and you'll be just buried in beefeaters, actually.
I mean, are they in uniform?
They will be in uniform.
I mean,
so things could be worse.
I things could be worse.
Things could be worse.
Yeah,
it is that, Ruby.
Beefeaters.
Yeah.
Just saying. You know.
I'm not necessarily gonna ask for it that way, though.
How are you gonna ask for it, Heather?
Politely. Dear sirs.
I would like to proposition you. I would like to present to you an indecent proposal.
If there are several beefeaters listening, please let me know.
Okay, so once Queen Victoria realized she had this giant, beautiful red rock in her treasury, what did she do with it?
Well, she immediately put it in something. A piece of jewelry, a crown, not just something.
Really, Heather? What?
Nothing. I'm fine. She immediately ordered a new imperial state crown in 1838. And was like, well, just put that front and center.
And yes, and that is the imperial state crown. If you Google the crown jewels of the British Empire,
you can see this
in the present day. You can see this beautiful
spinel.
Ruby spinel right in the front of the imperial state crown. There are plenty of pictures of it, both by itself and on the heads of monarchs, including the last Queen Elizabeth, which
all the monarchs have worn it.
So weighed down by that, because it's gotta weigh, like, I don't even know how much it weighs, but
I mean,
it's gotta be a lot.
The spinel was what,
35 grams.
35 grams, and the Queen was not that much more than a couple kilograms. Let's be real.
Let's see. So the Imperial.
She always looked a little put out when she was wearing full regalia.
Imperial state crown actually.
Seriously, strong necked monarchs.
Yeah. So it weighs 1.06 kilos, which is 2.3 pounds.
That's just like on your head.
So imagine like 2 chubs of ground beef on your head encrusted with jewels. And that's the imperial state crown of England.
Sorry, I'm actually picturing the ground beef encrusted in jewels. Just sort of sitting. But it's less comfortable than ground beef would be.
Right? Because it's not squishy at all. It's made of platinum and diamond.
Yeah.
And it does have like the little squishy little ermine collar, but...
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we keep bedazzling this crown some more, don't we?
Well, switching out. Because, between 1838 and 1911, the ruby, Black Princess Ruby, aka
the spinel,
was set up in the front and center, and below it was the Stuart sapphire. And then in 1911, the Stuart sapphire was switched out for the Cullinan II, which we will talk about more about the Cullinan diamonds when we have a diamond podcast. But basically, the Cullinan 2 is a big ass diamond, like a big ass diamond. And so currently, that is what sits below the Black Prince's ruby in the Imperial state crown of the British Empire. And I don't actually know what the Stuart sapphire is doing at the moment.
Hanging out in some ground beef, probably. And that's why they're called beef eaters. Little known fact.
Yeah, maybe.
It's not. That's a lie. Just so everyone knows, that is a lie.
There.
It does not say who designed this time. I'm sure with more digging we could find out. But sometimes you don't get any credit. You just get to say things like, well, we were the designers to the Queen, and that's all you get. And if the Queen's like, yes, we did let them design something, then you really win.
So in answer to the unspoken question about what has happened to the Stuart sapphire, it was first moved to the back of the crown to make space for the Cullinan 2 diamond in the front, and then it was eventually moved to the back of the Imperial state crown, which was a copy of the Victoria's that was made in 1937. That was used by
I like to have copies of my crown
Prince Charles
too.
/ King Charles. But so they moved the big ass sapphire to the back of the crown, and then they moved it to the back of another crown.
Have crown.
I don't have a crown. Heather wins crowns tonight because she has one and I do not have one.
Really crooked though. There, better.
So that is the story in brief of the Great Imposter, aka the Black Prince's ruby, which was never actually a ruby to begin with. It was always a spinel. And I think the moral of the story, my takeaway from this, I'm going to ask Heather for her takeaway in a minute, but my takeaway from this is do not, under any circumstances, appeal for help to someone whose moniker is the Cruel.
I think that's a really solid lesson to learn here.
What is your takeaway, Heather?
No throne is safe, and just assume at any point that they're gonna... no comment, Corvus. What I say here tonight might go out as evidence, so
it's immortalized on the internet.
It is. I am not sitting on a throne. I'm merely wearing beautiful, expensive, very expensive gemstones that are also not rubies.
I went to the store last night and I bought a gallon of canola oil and 20 matchbooks, and I'm really surprised that no one, followed me on suspicion of doing crimes.
Well, you were singing the song and not looking suspicious.
I was not singing the song, actually, because I didn't even know the song existed.
Oh man, but now you're singing it.
No. Oh. You're the only one who's singing it.
I'm the only one who's singing it.
You're the only one. So that's it. That's the Black Prince's ruby, the Great Imposter. It's a really interesting story, and I will say that I do. Despite all of the murder, it's nice that this isn't, because there are going to be a couple of upcoming podcasts of this was stolen from indigenous peoples or pried from the eye of a statue and then taken to Europe and recut and appropriated by white people. And
this is just people in power
murdering
really
each other,
inconveniencing other people in power.
Mm-hmm.
And even Muhammad, who certainly did not fare well in this particular story, he was not dethroned by Pedro the Cruel. He was
just a
just
dumbass.
murdered by him.
Went to Pedro the Cruel and then was murdered. We did, in fact, go on an adventure on Sunday Silver, so don't forget tomorrow evening at 6:30 p.m. on twitch.tv/beatingdream, we have our live sale of our new merchandise. We have all kinds of awesome, fun things.
Yes.
Some of you who were on the preview tonight saw some of the cool things that are upcoming, so we will be selling those tomorrow evening at 6:30 p.m. So lots of fun and nifty things, including labradorites and Lisa Frank stuff and opals and other cool things. So yeah, that's gonna be tomorrow night.
Yes. Beige labradorites.
Beige labradorites. So that's gonna be tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time on this channel, twitch.tv/beatingdream. We did get dragons as well.
Yes, we did.
So yes, we got all kinds of fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's it for us tonight. We have told you all about the Black
Imposter.
Princess Ruby, the Great Imposter. So we will be back next week, Wednesday, with another fun and crazy Gemstone Stories podcast. But I think for tonight we are going to go ahead and sign off. So everyone have a great evening, and we will... Oh, Lord.
Oh, no.
I'm scared. No, sorry.
Thank you, Silver, you too. Thank you all for being here.
Good night. Thank you all for being here.
We're apparently looking at gifts that are not gift horses. Because we know better, right? We know better.
Yes, but where... Discord does not always like me. Where did you leave it, Keiko? Oh.
Yeah, don't trust anyone named the Terrible, the Cruel,
The Black Prince.
the Black Prince.
Did you see what Keiko put in Discord? It's in general. So yeah, so don't trust people called the Terrible, the Cruel, the Black Prince, or people who you think will rifle through your newly dead corpse to find the giant ruby in your pocket. And with those takeaways, we are going to sign off. So everyone have a great night. We'll see you all back on this channel, twitch.tv/beatingdream, tomorrow evening at 6:30 for our live merchandise sale. Everyone have a great night. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Cursor.